What's up, hockey fans, and welcome back to the Good Gold Podcast. This is episode 30, the Big 3-0. I'm Christian Brady from Clemson, South Carolina. That's Matt TR from Clemson, South Carolina. Matt, how you doing?
Who do I look like right now with this beanie on?
I don't know, but you're wearing a lot of clashing colors, and I'm going to be honest, I don't like it.
Yeah, I know. But like the beanie covering all the hair. Who do I look like right now?
I don't know. Oh, is this an office thing? Oh, Eminem.
All right. Well, our podcast is definitely getting pulled off the air for that, but oh well. It was worth the 4 seconds.
Yeah, they worried about copyright for a podcast that has 13 listeners. I guess we'll find out, right?
I feel like Eminem is that big of a dick to do that. So
maybe.
All right.
I don't know Eminem personally, but if you listen to Eminem, you have a free pass to be a guest on our show. So just give us a call. All right, Matt, let's start with a blockbuster trade because actually, you know what? I wanted to start with something else because we talked about this yesterday where you have moments where you just like act really stupid, you know, and this doesn't really fit on our hockey podcast, but we talk about dumb stuff sometimes.
Sometimes?
Yeah. I had another moment after we left or whatever. I was at basketball and the lights were off and they were doing the intro. So I was like, oh, like the game's about to start. I got to put my face shield on. If you don't know, I work for the athletic program doing like stupid jobs, like mopping the floor, sub table at soccer. I mean, it's the coolest job ever, but it's also like, you know, it's the lowest on the totem pole.
He'd rather be golfing. Also, I want to point out that when we play Duke, like primetime ESPN, Christian gets all the camera work because they're like going to the foul shot. You got Christian like mopping his ass off.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
It's awesome, dude. It's so fun. So what we were talking about, Matt, was we were playing poker and I was already out of the hand. So this didn't end up hurting me in the game, but there was like a potential straight on the board. And I was like, oh, that's a straight. And everyone was like, no, it isn't. And I was like, what are you talking about? 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a straight. And they were like 2, 3, 4. I was like, oh my God, like I got to take a walk. I forgot how to count.
Yeah. And I told him he's hanging out with me too much because another story is when I get excited, I talk super fast. And we were playing 18 holes at this crappy course in my hometown. And there was a dead deer in the middle of the fairway. Swear to God, if you have my phone number, text me. I'll send you the picture. And I'm talking. I'm like, oh my God, dude, there was this dead horse in the fairway. And Christian goes, a horse? There was a dead horse? And I was like, what? No, a dead deer. And he's like, that's way different. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So
okay, so last night I'm working basketball and they turned the lights off to do the intro. And the game's about to start, so I got to put my face shield on. And I put it on. I was like, oh, my God, I can't see. Like, this face shield means I can't, like, how am I going to do it? I can't see. And then they turned the lights back on. And I was like, oh, it's because it was dark in here. But I thought when I put the face shield on, I was like, what happened? I've worn this thing before, but I can't see anymore. How am I going to do my job? Oh, man. So I'm losing brain cells. Maybe we do have to stop hanging out with each other, Matt.
Yeah, we need to take a week off or something.
Okay, blockbuster trade. The Winnipeg Jets send winger Patrik Laine and center Jack Roslovic to the Columbus Blue Jackets in exchange for center Pierre-Luc Dubois and a 2022 third-round pick. All three of the players involved in this trade, Matt, had requested trades in the past probably half a year since last season. I don't know what Jack Roslovic is doing requesting a trade because he's like a third or fourth line center. But the other two are star players. I have been critical of Patrik Laine on this podcast. I'm going to go down saying that the Jets won this trade. But in the same breath, everyone wins a trade when they send away a guy who doesn't want to be there because none of those guys were adding value to their teams because they didn't want to play.
So this one's interesting, right? Pierre-Luc Dubois kind of voices his concerns, and Tortorella is a no BS coach.
Yeah, he's not a fan.
So, in exchange of voicing his concerns, he got 4 minutes of ice time in the last game he played for Columbus. And that's insane because to me, he's their best center. So, I mean, you're sacrificing a guy who doesn't want to be there, but adds value to your team in that moment to win a game. And then Patrick Laine requested a trade because he wanted to be in a bigger market, and they sent him to a smaller market than Winnipeg. So I don't think anyone really won this trade player-wise, but I think Pierre-Luc Dubois, to me, is going to thrive on that second line in Winnipeg, and Patrick Laine might retire because he has to deal with Tortorella, and Tortorella is not going to put up with his prima donna attitude. So
I don't know if Patrick Laine likes playing hockey. I think he's just like really good at it. So he does it to make enough living to stop.
He's an unbelievable goal scorer.
Yeah, he really is. He is an unbelievable shot. That's his main thing. But we'll see. And we talked about this as soon as this happened, Matt. We'll see how Tortorella handles Laine, because I joked with you when we were texting about it that Patrick Laine is going to walk into the locker room for the first time, and Torts is just going to like punch him in the face and be like, if you don't come back, like I'm going to have some, if you don't come back on defense, like I'm going to have some brass knuckles on the next time I punch you in the face or something like that. Because he does not stand for any BS. We saw that with Pierre-Luc Dubois. Like Pierre-Luc Dubois said, I don't want to be here anymore. And Tortorella said, good, you're playing 4 minutes tonight, even though you're a top 20 player in the league.
You get one shift.
Yeah. And he didn't play past the first period, and then the next game he was traded. So, I said, these teams each get rid of pieces that didn't want to be with them. So if just for that, it'd probably be worth it for them to get anything in return. But it's going to be interesting to see how it works out, because I am long been a believer when I talk about this in basketball. It doesn't happen as much in hockey, but if you are a guy who doesn't want to be somewhere, it probably means like you don't have that love for the game. Like there are players who will play in whatever, the Yukon, like all the way up in Canada, they'll play juniors because they love hockey so much. But then you get to the NHL and you're playing for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who have actually been having success. And both of these teams have been having success. But for whatever reason, Pierre-Luc Dubois, it's probably a combination of Panarin and Seth Jones leaving. I'm sure those were good friends of his, and Bobrovsky probably. Patrick Laine, I don't really know why he wanted out of Winnipeg, but if he wanted out of Winnipeg, I'm sure he's not going to be happy in Columbus.
Well, yeah. So the rumor was he wanted to play in a bigger market, but it's not like he has, like, you know how Deshaun Watson with all this drama, he has the player option. So like he decides where he wants to go in his trade clause. Patrick Laine doesn't have that like power. So
he hasn't earned that.
Yeah. So it's like, I want to go to a bigger market. Okay, we're gonna send you to Columbus. Like,
yeah, and the Deshaun Watson thing is different because that organization,
he's the second best quarterback in the league,
right? And that organization is run like very poorly. They hired like the Patriots team chaplain because like he was Bill Belichick's friend, and they were like, oh, he must know football. He's Bill Belichick's friend. And now he has all the power in the organization. And mostly like the owner said, you're going to be, you, Deshaun Watson, one of the best players in the league, you will be involved in team decisions. And then he found out that his coach had been fired on Twitter. And then he found out that his best receiver had been traded on Twitter. And he was like, okay, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. Like if you're not, if you're going to just keep lying to me. Okay. Yeah. We've been talking about that for too long.
Hockey. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Patrick Laine is going to have to find a new motivation. And I think Tortorella isn't going to put up with him lacking motivation, especially when Columbus now has some expectations to make the playoffs, because the past 2 seasons they've had no expectations and they've blew past all those. So,
yeah, and like you said, I think Pierre-Luc Dubois fits better on the Winnipeg offense than Patrick Laine fits in with Columbus, because they are Winnipeg is not a team defense team. They are high-flying, great goaltending. I mean, Hellebuck makes 35 saves a night and they win like 4-1,
Yeah.
That's the kind of games that they play. And Columbus is the exact opposite of that. So he's going to have to buy in or he's not going to have success there. But why don't we move on, Matt, to your team? I'm going to let you explain this one. Actually, you know what? I'm not, because I want to say this. The Washington Capitals players have been busted for an egregious and disgusting display and lack of professionalism and human dignity. They hung out in a hotel room. How dare they? They should be shot. Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Ilya Samsonov, and Dmitry Orlov were all maskless in a hotel room, and they've been put into COVID protocol. Ilya Samsonov tested positive. Who knows if it was connected to that incident or not? But neither of them have played since it happened. What do you have to say on this?
Yeah, I think I completely 100% agree with you. I think cut them all. Just the lack of awareness. I mean, to completely, if I'm room 218 and you're room 219, and literally we have a paper thin door that separates our room, and I unlock mine to say, hey, what's up? I mean, 4 games isn't enough, honestly.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
So, but in all seriousness, Ovechkin and Kuznetsov, from what I saw, both have proof that they have the antibodies, but with the COVID protocol, it's 4 games minimum, I think. I thought it was 4 negative tests in a row, but I guess it's 4 games. So we play the Islanders tomorrow, and then Friday they'll be reevaluated. It would be huge if we can have them back for the Bruins game on Saturday, but we shall see. Beginning of the season, and now it looks like Vitek Vanacek has stolen the starter position due to better play and more opportunities thanks to Samsonov testing positive. So
Say that name again. That's a fun name.
Vitek Vanacek.
Yeah, that's awesome. He sounds like he could play on the 1980 Soviet team.
He probably could. He's a 2-time AHL All-Star. So
wow.
Anyway.
All right. Well, yeah. It looks like the 4 of them will probably be back, except for Samsonov. Will probably be back at least by Monday for the Bruins game. But they're hurting without him. You mentioned the power play has really been struggling in their absence. So, I mean, that seems obvious. Alex Ovechkin leads. He's the all-time power play leading scorer, right?
He's up there.
Yeah, he's definitely up there with most goals on the power play. Definitely most active. He's famous for Ovechkin's office on the power play. So they're hurting without him. Kuznetsov is a puck. No, what's the whatever. He gets the puck a lot. I forget what the name is. There's a name for it. Puck hound. He's a puck hound on the power play. So that's something you lose.
Backstrom getting up there in age, Kuznetsov, when he's on cocaine, is usually our power play quarterback because he's playing so well.
If you would have said at the beginning of the season, Evgeny Kuznetsov is not going to be allowed to play, I would have said, okay, he did cocaine. That would have been my number 1 thing. Number 2 would have been COVID.
Out 4 games, and you're like, that's coke all the way. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I'm looking forward to getting these guys back, especially because Brad Marchand had to open his big mouth and say, I don't feel bad for them. They deserve what they got. So.
Well, I mean, in a way, Matt, they could have easily put a mask on, and I don't know how they got caught.
They're in a hotel room.
I agree with you, but I mean,
they're not in the lobby.
We talk about this all the time. It's so easy to just put your mask on, and you're right. If you think about the things that they could have done that are dangerous with COVID, this is the absolute bottom of the list, ridiculous. But at the same time, it's very easily avoidable. They can still hang out with each other.
When I first told you that they were hanging out in a hotel room without a mask, you immediately said there's a line that needs to be drawn.
Agreed.
And the NHL crossed the line that's not even there because they're hanging out in the hotel room.
I still think that, but the point is, they definitely could have avoided this situation very easily, and they didn't. So I don't think they deserve to not play, but at the same time, I want to defend my guy. Everyone on the Bruins, I think, is wearing a mask, so why can't the Capitals do that, Hey, you know what? Zdeno Chara, step in, get a hold of your new guys in Washington.
Zdeno Chara needs to be cut. He is such a liability.
Yeah, I know, dude. That's what I've been saying for years. This guy does not stop giving the puck away. But I stand by the fact that I will keep. I mean, it's the only thing he does wrong. He's a presence on D. He's a great penalty killer. He plays 18 solid minutes a night, but he just gives the puck away like once a shift.
Go look at Barzell's goal last night. One of the Islanders beat writers tweeted, Barzell, Islanders take the lead 2-1. Barzell backhand off a beautiful feed from Chara.
Mhm.
Chara behind the net on the boards goes to clear the puck and just gives it right to Barzell. No one around in front of Vanacek, and he just buries it. I mean, it looked like Chara had money on Barzell to score.
Mhm.
I mean, that's how egregious it was. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the guy gives the puck away a lot. There's no way to defend it. But the stats say, the Corsi or whatever it is, the stats say the team is better when he's on the ice. So take that for what it's worth.
I'm ready to go to our original claim of tape him to the bench and just have him as a leader or an assistant coach.
Right. He's already worth
point.
it for that. Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay. The Vegas Golden Knights coaching staff has all been exposed to COVID, and none of them will be on the bench for at least 4 games. Therefore, general manager Kelly McCrimmon and AHL affiliate coaches will man the bench for the next few games, including last night. And one of those is Joel Ward. I know you want to talk about that. Yeah, the great Joel Ward, the greatest hockey player ever. That's correct. The same week, Matt, that Wayne Gretzky turned 60 years old, we're going to say that Joel Ward is the best hockey player of all time. That sounds good.
You are just so upset about 2012 and Joel Ward burying past the liability that is Tim Thomas, a Game 7 overtime winner to end y'all's reign as Stanley Cup champs. So yes,
yeah, Matt, I had a hot take. I had a hot take at Walmart when we were talking about that. Tim Thomas will go down as the most overrated Boston athlete of all time. And I don't say that because he's bad. I say that because he was better than average, and people think he is the Lord Jesus Christ. I mean, people think that Tim Thomas was the greatest goalie of all time. I maintain that he had 1.5 good years. That 2012 season, he was very good, very, very good. And we were the President's Trophy winner. But, we exited in the second round. He didn't look great. The team didn't look great. It was a Stanley Cup hangover, whatever you want to call it. But it's not that Tim Thomas was bad. I think Tuukka Rask is a head above him, and people don't give him nearly enough credit. And Tim Thomas, is praised for being the greatest Bruin of all time, and that he's not even close.
Anyway, so I also want to point this out, that the Vegas Golden Knights, their AHL affiliate, is the Henderson Silver Knights, which is a little much. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. They lost in a shootout last night, so they are at least competent enough to get a point with a GM and AHL coaches on the bench. And I think mainly in part because Joe Ward was there that they got a point. And I think they probably win the next 3 if they put him as the interim head coach. So,
I mean, I know nothing about Kelly McCrimmon, but one thing I can say about all GMs is that they definitely know their team inside and out. I mean, he built that. Well, actually, that's not true. He didn't build that team. Their GM was
George McPhee built it.
Yeah, exactly.
George McPhee used to be the Caps GM.
So I don't know anything about him. I'm sure he will be serviceable in the time off, and it's really like a non-starter. Four games without your coach is no big deal. But it's a 56-game season, so they're going to.
But it's Peter Dubois Peter DeBoer who is an excellent coach. So
right.
Also, George McPhee was the GM of the Caps when Joel Ward buried that Game 7 overtime winner to slay the Bruins. So it all comes full circle.
Yeah. All right, Matt, you talked about an AHL All-Star goaltender. We're going to talk about another AHL All-Star goaltender, Maple Leafs backup goalie Jack Campbell, who was traded from the Kings last season. He's out 4 weeks with a leg injury. And Matthew Tkachuk is going to Matthew Tkachuk, as the kids say. He apparently fell on him purposefully in a net front scramble or scrum after the whistle, and then after the game said he did nothing wrong. He's just going to be him, That's what the Tkachuk brothers are going to do. But it's unfortunate that he's hurt.
It stinks, but it's unfortunate that they kind of got their reputation from their dad, who was known for he's
a
a like,
legend.
NHL grinder. So yeah, whatever.
I read this, the hockeywriters.com or something like that, and it was a complete hit piece on Matthew Tkachuk, and it was like Matthew Tkachuk's ignorance in this situation shows why hockey is going in a bad direction. It's like,
there's probably a Toronto writer.
Come on, man. Come on. And they were like, and Toronto fans' lack of response to Tkachuk's comments are proof that this stuff is going to fly in the new NHL. And it was like, lack of Maple Leafs response is probably why you shouldn't be writing this article. Because Maple Leafs fans are going to complain no matter what happens. And they don't complain about this, and then it's probably not true. And I haven't seen them play, so I don't know if it probably, I mean, knowing Matthew Tkachuk, it's the same thing with Brad Marchand. If someone gets hurt because of him, you can probably assume that he did it on purpose. But like, if Maple Leafs fans are not outraged about it, then it's probably like a good indication that there's nothing really to be angry.
It was probably just a bang play. Mm-hmm. Also, it was probably a Toronto writer who's still living in 1967, the last time they won the cup. So he's like, the new NHL. Bro, you haven't won.
He goes to the Hall of Fame every day. He's like, why do they have these interactive exhibits? This should be Bobby Orr skates in here. That's what we should be talking about, not the new shooting simulator or whatever.
Yeah. So it's been 54 years since they won the cup. Also, I'm going to plug this page. There's a page on Twitter that says days since the Maple Leafs have won the Stanley Cup, and it's up to like 20,000 days. Go follow it
every day.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's funny, man. That's good. Well, hey, they have a better chance this year than in probably our lifetimes. They're definitely very, very good.
Yeah, we're trashing them, and they're on top of the league right now in points. So,
but they're gonna hurt without Jack Campbell. He's a very serviceable backup. Which, I mean, we cannot talk about this enough, Matt. But that's extremely important in today's NHL season.
Yeah, especially with such short. I mean, teams are playing 4 games a week.
Yeah, I haven't seen many goalies in the league who have been playing more than half the games. I know Tuukka Rask is not.
Vanacek is only because.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to go to your third goalie. But, yeah, they're going to be asking a lot of Frederik Andersen in the next couple of weeks.
Well, according to NHL 20, Frederik Andersen is Jesus Christ himself. So.
Yeah, I know. And he's good. He's another guy who doesn't get enough credit. But he's not great in the playoffs. They are not great in the playoffs. He's just indicative of their team.
Yeah.
Okay. John Forsland. Go ahead.
I said it's not 1967, and that hockeywriters.com guy can get back to writing.
Yeah, he can hang up the quill. He can hang up the quill that he probably writes in. Okay. John Forsland announces the Seattle Kraken's full-time play-by-play announcer. My only hope for this is that when they go national, when the Seattle Kraken, because of course in their first season there's going to be a lot of tension on them. Hopefully when they have national games they stick with John Forsland, because I love the guy. He patented the famous tic-tac goal, which I know Jack Edwards for the Bruins uses a lot. I love that saying. So he is the guy who came up with that. He's also a Springfield, Mass native. Not that means anything, but the best hockey people are from Massachusetts. And that's a fact.
Okay. Forsland, unbelievable play-by-play guy for the Carolina Hurricanes. I read that he has been with the team since 95. So he has a ring.
Oh, wow.
In 06. And I mean, he's been like the go-to guy since Doc has retired. So it's weird to me. I mean, we talked for the podcast. It's weird to me that he would turn down potentially a full-time job with NBC to go announce Kraken games. But I mean, like you said, new team, high expectations thanks to the Golden Knights. They're going to get a lot of national games, and Seattle's got all the money in the world apparently. So it looks like they probably offered him a 6-figure deal.
Matt, remember when they announced that the season tickets for the first 3 years have sold out, and that was like probably a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it was like the second longest waiting list in the league, and they haven't even played a game.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's the same expansion rules as Vegas. So you have to imagine that they'll be good. But I also think that Vegas caught lightning in a bottle a little bit. So,
Absolutely.
but
Anyway,
yeah, we got to talk about this, Matt. NBC Sports has a very uncertain future. We don't know where games are going to happen, where they're going to be shown, how much NBC is going to get games in the future. And also, now that play-by-play announcers are calling games from their own studios, or even in some cases from their home, like Eddie Olczyk and Pierre Maguire did, not Pierre Maguire, and Doc Emmerich did in the playoffs last year. So you can kind of just call a guy and say, "Are you free tonight? Can you do the game?" So they're not really going with a full-time guy that they're going to fly out every time there's a big game on Wednesday night. So Forsland, with an uncertain future in NBC, I mean, being the Kraken's first ever play-by-play guy seems like the coolest job ever. I remember, what's a guy's name? Dave Gosher. He was the Bruins radio guy, and I absolutely loved him. And
he's a
he
Golden
started
Knights
with Vegas, and he has taken on a new life there, So it seems like an attractive job. I would obviously, if I were in this position, I would take it too. Any employee of the Kraken has got to be excited for their future.
Yeah, I think I also agree with you on the job security of this franchise is now entering. So it's not like they're going anywhere. And
Yeah.
NBC, I mean, you're guaranteed a full-time job. You're guaranteed the voice of this new franchise. That comes with a lot of perks that NBC can't match.
Agreed.
So plus the amenities that Seattle has, good for him. He definitely deserves it. So
100%.
also, right, Carolina Hurricanes, call me. I graduate in May.
An experienced play-by-play guy.
Yeah,
looks like you've been
I have
searching
like
for
4
one
games
now.
under my belt. So
yeah, I mean, you're qualified. Okay. NHL Power Rankings as set by the writers at NBCSports.com. I know we just trashed you. We still love you guys. We hope you don't make us pay for Peacock to watch NHL games. That will make me very angry.
Yeah.
Very angry. And you will not like what I say on this podcast, which has a lot of national attention.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Power Rankings.
The amount of boycotting that NBC will get due to the trash on our podcast. I mean,
NBC Sports, you don't understand how much power we have at our fingertips. You don't. We can get 13
You're going to get like
to stop
7
watching.
people not watching anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Number 1, Montreal Canadiens. A lot of articles saying that the Montreal Canadiens are the team to beat. That's a very bold thing to say after the first 6 games of the season, but they have gotten 10 out of 12 points as of 2 days ago. They have the best goal differential. Great possession numbers, this article says. Who knows what that means? They look great. Let them enjoy the top spot for a week. Sounds like the writer of this article thinks they're not going to stay.
The writer's like, I'm putting them at 1 to do them a favor because they suck, is essentially what he's saying.
That's like when a fighter loses the title. And it's like, you enjoy this while you have it because you're not going to keep it. You're not a good fighter,
Yeah.
But they're great. Obviously, I've been watching every team, so I have seen some of them. They're so fun to watch. They're the new Claude Julien brand of hockey where they're going to give up 1 goal every game, basically, especially with Carey Price and Jake Allen behind them. They're all buy in defensively. Power play is great. Not a ton of skill, but obviously enough to score goals. As long as the goals keep coming, they're going to win a lot of games.
We hyped up this team a lot preseason because Carey Price is only going to play 35 to 40 games, and Jake Allen is good enough to be a starter. So, I mean, that takes a lot of load off one of the greatest goalies that's ever played the game. And he showed he still got it in the bubble last year. So
that's right. He did, for sure. Especially after a couple months of being off and being 100% healthy, Carey Price was great in the bubble.
I mean, his ceiling before he had all of his injury troubles was the greatest goalie of all time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, without a doubt. Okay, number 2, Vegas Golden Knights. They deserve a lot of attention. We just talked about Seattle, and obviously they're going to be synonymous with Seattle for probably the first few years of their existence, just being the 31st team and the 32nd team. But we got to talk about them in other contexts as well, because they're just a great hockey team. They have two of the best goalies in the league, legitimately. Marc-Andre Fleury has been playing great. There's no starter on that team as I see it right now. But one thing that's certain is Mark Stone is in the MVP discussion, which is what this writer said. He has 11 points, which is good for tied for third in the league with, listen to these names, Leon Draisaitl, Nikolai Ehlers, and above him are Connor McDavid and Mitch Marner. So
Shocker that Draisaitl and McDavid are at the top.
The new captain of the Vegas Golden Knights is definitely putting on a show in Vegas. So hopefully we get fans back in there first.
You know why? It's because he listened to our pod and he was like, "Oh, I don't deserve to be captain." Okay, Matt and Christian.
Yeah, we definitely have a mush, Matt. We have a mush where we say things and the opposite happens.
I feel like people have to be listening, because we were like last season before COVID. We were like Islanders 16-game point streak, and then I think they listened to our pod and got it in their head and they lost. So
they lost like 13 games in a row.
Yeah, and then just decided to beat the Caps in 5. So
okay, Steven Stamkos is back. Okay, you first.
Golden Knights, yeah, they're going to be at the top of then they're probably going to win their division. So
agreed. Okay, Steven Stamkos back at the helm of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are in third. He's scoring goals. Their whole team is scoring goals. They're just going to be great, and they're not in a very strong division, so they'll probably win that as well.
Stamkos is what Laine wishes he was.
Yeah, that's actually such a good point.
Laine has all the talent in the world to be a Steven Stamkos. No leadership, no motivation. So yeah, I'm psyched for Stamkos. He's such a great ambassador to the sport. I'm happy that he's healthy again. It was scary when he got that blood clot. Like, we thought his career was over. And to see him come back and lift the cup, and then now to be healthy and scoring goals again, good for him. So
as much as I don't like Tampa Bay,
be really good.
Yeah, as much as I don't like Tampa Bay, just from their history, us playing in the playoffs basically every year, Steven Stamkos is a guy that you are forced to like, and I'd like to see him get a cup that you can feel like he was instrumental in the process of it,
Yeah.
Because that's not the case with the last one. So I'd like to see them get another cup. Hopefully it's while the Bruins are really bad in a couple of years, so that I don't have to think what could have been. But yeah, that Patrick Laine, Steven Stamkos comparison is good, because remember when Steven Stamkos came into the league in like 2009, probably at this point, and LeCavalier and who's the other guy, the little guy?
Marty St. Louis.
Yeah, Marty St. Louis. I couldn't believe I couldn't think of that. But he was just like the power play sniper that Patrick Laine is. But he flourished into a leader, one of the best players in the league, Hall of Famer. And I don't see the same future for Patrick Laine, who's probably 27 now.
So
not nearly as accomplished as Stamkos was at that point in his career.
Stamkos, first overall pick in 2008.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. So that's good. Tampa Bay Lightning, number 3. That seems like an adequate place for them. Colorado Avalanche. Not winning a ton of games, but definitely scoring a lot of goals. When they win by 15 goals. They have the best offense in the league. We'll see how their defense holds up. I know you're high in the Colorado Avalanche, so I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it's weird that I've kind of adopted them as like my second team. It's crazy. When you look at the standings, they're 4-3. But when they're on, no one beats them. It's unbelievable how many goals they put up. Mikko Rantanen leading the league in goals. Mm-hmm. McKinnon is just, we talk about this kid enough, so I'm not going to give him that much airtime. But it's so weird to me that when you look at the league as a whole, they're 10th. But yeah, this guy, this writer said it. They're the best team on paper. So, we'll see.
They have to be
early season. But
and the questions about them always are the secondary scoring, which I can identify with because the Bruins always get that sort of knock too. So when the secondary scoring shows up, they score like 6 goals a night because the first line is good for 2
Yeah.
goals a night. So crazy,
At least.
crazy.
Yeah.
At least.
That
yeah.
power play is almost guaranteed.
Yeah, I know. All right, number 5, my Boston Bruins. The floodgates are starting to open, says the article. Offensively, after a slow start, through 3 games, I think they scored 3 goals. But since then, they've scored probably 8 in 3 games, maybe 9. So they've been fun to watch. They won again in overtime last night. Every game is going to overtime. I'd love to see them win in regulation, but you take 2 points when you can get them, and you take 1 point really when you can get them, especially in a season like this. If your losses can be overtime losses, you are very well set up for the
Absolutely.
future,
Especially with the top 4 making it.
Right, and which we'll talk about when we get to the Capitals, which I'm extremely surprised I haven't read their name yet going down this list. That seems like an oversight. But yeah, but I don't have much to say about them. Pastrnak still hasn't even come back. There's been a lot of line shuffling with Jake DeBrusk sort of being in and out of the lineup with injuries, and Craig Smith playing well, Nick Ritchie playing really well, getting some time on the first line, Jack Studnicka being a young guy. So there's a lot of shuffling, but they're still scoring goals, which is good to see. When Pasta comes back, I think the Bruins will be lethal.
Yeah, Pasta he's so close to returning, and it's like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but it's like, their best players coming back. It's just a matter of when. So it's kind of like, if you're playing them now without him, you have to get points against them because you're going to see everyone in the division 8 times.
Yeah.
So you have to get points against teams when they're down. Like the Islanders last night should have beat us without 5 of our best players.
Right.
So yeah, it's crazy to me that you say you had 3 goals in the first 3 games and you have 18 after 6. So
yeah,
I don't know what you guys are doing, but keep doing.
Yeah, I'll let them know. I'll write a letter.
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
the
they're
New York
listening.
Islanders.
So
yeah, that's true. They're listening. Hey, Don Sweeney, I love you. Okay, New York Islanders. Offense
how about
not
Cam
great
Neely,
so
the
far.
guy in your background?
Yeah, Cam Neely right there. That's a gift from Matt, which took a year and a half to come in. I felt
That's
bad
true.
for you because you were like, it's coming, man, it's coming. And I was like, you don't even owe it to me. But
I got it before Christmas, or I ordered it before Christmas. It came in August. So
yeah. Okay. The offense is not great so far, as expected, they say, but they do not give up anything. And that's the mark of a Barry Trotz defense. We talk about this all the time. Also, a Mitch Korn goaltending core. So they seem to find a way to win, which is a great way to describe them. They continue to keep games close as well. So the New York Islanders being at 6 seems high, but they're definitely a great team.
yeah, Varlamov is the hottest goalie in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
He was 3-0 before last night, and he only had 2 players scoring him in 3 starts. So I'm chalking that up to Mitch Korn. And yeah, like you said, a Barry Trotz coach team means no scoring, and if you put up 2 against them, you're going to beat them. But good luck doing that. So
yeah, a big part of that is Barzal holding out, but then getting his contract already seemed to be making an impact. So that's a guy who's holding out because he's not getting the money he wants. But then once he gets the money, he's going to buy in completely. I have a hard time believing that Matt Barzal would have missed a game like William Nylander did a couple of years ago. If you think back to, actually, that was just last year, wasn't it?
yeah, with Toronto.
Yeah. But either way, yeah, Matt Barzal is obviously a big difference maker for the Islanders, and that's an example of a Pierre-Luc Dubois situation that ends up going well for both parties.
Yeah, especially when Charles feeding him right in front of the net. All right, number 7, our favorite team, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, they're fun to talk about, and this year they're fun to watch. So
it's crazy that they're 7th on this power rankings, but they lead the league in points, and Mitch Marner is earning his money.
Yeah, a lot of hot takes in this. I think maybe we won't be looking at the NBC Sports power rankings in the future, but it's good to be able to talk about each of these teams. I don't really know if I agree with where they're placed in these power rankings.
Yeah. Well, so the article also says goaltending needs to be a little better. It's hard when their backup is going to be out at least 4 weeks. So
Yeah, that's definitely true. But their top line is all up there in the points.
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah, right. It is about. That's exactly right. It's about time. And when one of the most talked about players in the league is third in scoring on that line, that being Austin Matthews, you know you're doing something right, especially because he's not even underperforming. He's playing well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're all being paid over $10 million. So this is exactly what's expected to them. I mean, how many guys in the league are paid over $10 million? It's probably less
Not
than
many.
15. Yeah.
Well, I don't even think McDavid's paid 10 because they got a steal when they signed him before the new CBA.
You're probably right. And like Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane were, I think, the first two guys in the league to reach the $10 million threshold.
Oh, yeah.
If I remember correctly.
He signed for $12 million, McDavid, over 8 years.
Which is not enough.
Oh, my God. That goal you didn't see his goal last night. It's all over NHL Twitter.
Oh.
We talk about him so much, but it's like we have to.
It's literally so fun to watch. And Matt, actually in class, we were talking about this. One of the approaches or motivations of watching the sport is aesthetic beauty. And that's the perfect way to describe watching Connor McDavid. Because it's just so fun to watch. You're watching a guy literally at the peak of athleticism. And if you think about hockey being like, you have to know how to skate as well as know how to play the sport. It's sort of like separate things. And he is just so perfect at the game. He literally does nothing wrong. And the goal last night is just he shakes off a hit. He stops short and changes direction, shakes off a hit, move to the middle, great hands, snipe through the legs. Like in one play, he did everything. So you have to go watch it.
Yeah, he wins a board battle, shakes off a hit, goes to the high slot, and there's like four defenders for Winnipeg just standing there. And he's like, hey, watch this.
What do? You try to chase him and you're dead. So you're probably better staying where you are and hoping he comes to you. You can't guess where he's going to go because he can be there and then be gone by the time you get there. So
anyway.
Yeah. All right. Number 8, Calgary Flames. Great start for Jacob Markstrom to shut down his former team in back-to-back games. Ouch. Right? Because that's great Holtby also.
Especially with Holtby on Vancouver.
Yeah.
Vancouver we knew Calgary was going to be good.
Yeah, we did.
They have all the talent in the world. So. Yeah.
And now a great goalie. So so it's kind of like when something changes and you get kind of worried. When all the goalies were shuffling around in the offseason, I was like, what is happening? Because I talk about all the time, and this is part of what supports my argument for Tuukka Rask, is when you have even a barely above average goalie, you have to hold on to him because that's so rare. But now there's just like a ton of good goalies, and who knows where they're coming from. But like Jacob Markstrom last year just kind of appeared out of nowhere, and he's playing great. So Matt Murray goes to Ottawa and is playing very, very well. And Tristan Jarry, who became the first, the number one goalie in Pittsburgh last year, has not had a great start.
Yeah, I think Casey DeSmith, who's like 64 overall in NHL, is like now their number one goalie. So,
yeah, Jarry played well last night against the Bruins, but obviously he needs to put a little more time in. He literally got sat. Healthy scratched by Sullivan because he said he's got to figure something out about himself before he gets back in the NHL lineup. And that's something to talk about, Matt, with pressure, especially with a goaltender. It might be easier to play when you know you have a franchise goalie behind you, because you'd think like he's going to be stealing my job. But depending on how guys think, he could be thinking like, first of all, I always have to compete, so I always have to prove myself. But now once he's gone, he's thinking like, okay, there's no other option but me. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's in his head.
It's so different, like, especially when you're moving to a new city. Like, yeah, you may be the number one guy and you're told that, but you still have to prove yourself to the fans and the new coaching staff. So
especially in Calgary, which are very aggressive sports fans. Well,
yeah.
aggressive hockey fans. That's all I got
No.
about the Flames, man. All right.
Yeah.
Number 9,
So,
the Dallas Stars. Small sample size alert, it says, which is true because they missed the first week of the season. But no team has won more playoff games than the Stars over the past 2 years. Wow, that's an interesting stat that I did not know. So yeah, they started late. They're probably rested, but they came out of the gates raring to go, which, that can go one of two ways. If you're waiting a long time without playing, you can either come out hot or you can come out dead because you're rusty or whatever. So they had a great start, but they're 9 on this list, which I guess makes sense because they haven't really proven themselves yet. But Dallas is definitely a great team to watch.
there's only 2 undefeated teams in the league, Dallas and Florida, and they both only played 3 games. So
yeah, right, because they've both been out with COVID stuff.
Yeah, so I agree with the small sample size, but I mean, from what they've seen, or from what we've seen and what they've showed, they're going to be back in the playoffs again.
Okay, number 10, St. Louis Blues. They had one terrible game against Colorado in which they lost 8-0. I think it was. It might have been 8-1, but this is still going to be a contender, and they still have Vladimir Tarasenko wild card in their back pocket. Has he not played yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because he was out with a leg injury. He broke his leg, did he not?
I thought it was some surgery he had to have. That's all I remember.
Okay, all right. Either way, he was out. Still hasn't played. I feel like he hasn't played in the better part of 2 years, right? So that's definitely a good guy to have. I know their power play has been doing really well in his absence. Torrey Krug, I'm sure, is helping out with that, but they've always had a good power play. They always have a great offense. Binnington playing well. Again, 10 teams seems low, but there's a lot of good teams. And there's a lot of teams winning. So you know what? I have some sympathy for these NBC Sports writers, but at the same time, they've been mostly wrong.
Yeah, we're like, don't do away with NBC Sports Network, you scum. NBC, you guys are all right. Like, literally in the same podcast.
Okay.
The Blues are,
yeah,
they struggle, and then they're good, and then they struggle, and then they're really good. And so I'm not worried about them.
Yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. And I say
All
that
right.
secretly hoping they don't, but they're going to make it.
So this guy put other, he categorized these teams. So top 10 are the top 10. And then after the top 10, it says promising start, but need to see more to know it is for real. So coming in at number 11 is the Washington Capitals. And I just think it's because we've had so many injuries and COVID related absences. So that's really all I got.
Winning. So I'm going to come to your defense here, Matt.
We've got a point in all 7 games, and that's even without our captain, Cocaine Kuzi, Orlov, and our starting goalie at the beginning of the season. And Tom Wilson.
I like I like the idea, Matt, of this whole prove it to me thing, but I don't think the Washington Capitals can ever be in that situation until they're bad again, It's the same thing with the Bruins and the Penguins. It's like these teams are going to be good no matter what. They have been for 10 years in a row, literally, all 3 of them. So how can you say we don't know if it's real if it's been real for 10 straight years? That's a team that starts in you're good, you got to prove to me that you're bad before you drop this low in the rankings. It's not like everyone starts fresh. That's not how this league works. There are teams who are perennially
especially in the regular season. No one has more wins in the regular season in the past 5 years than the Caps.
Yeah. So these other teams that are in here, New Jersey, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Carolina, these are teams that make sense in the you got to prove it to me. But other teams who are above them, like Calgary, Islanders, Montreal, those are teams that should be in this. Not that they should be low in the rankings, but they should be in the you're winning
in the category of.
But you still got to prove something to us.
Yeah.
Because there are teams who have not done so in the past. I feel like teams like Washington, St. Louis, Colorado, Tampa Bay, those are teams who start the year at 1 through 4. And Pittsburgh, I guess, too. Those are teams who start in the top 10. And once they prove that they don't deserve to be there, then they don't deserve to be there anymore. But like, I don't think you can categorize Washington by saying you don't know it's real, because it's been real.
Yeah. Especially with our best player out for 4 games. And we've gotten points in all those games.
One of your top 3 players, you could say, because Carlson, I'm sure, falls at 2 in your eyes, in most eyes. But Kuznetsov is right up there in the top 5 of that team. Okay, number 12, New Jersey.
When he's on coke, he's the best player.
You say that, but he was good last year too, and it was after he got busted. But who knows if he's been tested?
Well, he wasn't that good. I mean, he wasn't 32 points and 20 playoff games good.
To be fair, we don't know if he was addicted, and we also don't know even that he did test positive, didn't he?
Yeah, but it wasn't on the banned substance list. He's still suspended, IIHF. He got a 4-year suspension.
Yeah, because remember he was in that video with cocaine in the room,
Yeah, after the cup.
See it. Yeah.
And everyone's like, he was celebrating. I'm like, then explain how he was really good before he got caught and he's average after. Like, explain that to me.
I don't like this idea of us spreading the you should do cocaine to be better at hockey.
No, absolutely not. But that's on the NHL because it's not on the banned substance list.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me.
We've had that conversation before. And I'm not saying, Kuzi, go out and do coke. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But I am saying, if you're doing it and not getting caught and you're scoring 3 goals a night, I'm just going to look away.
No, you should not be saying.
No, I shouldn't.
Okay. All right, let's move on before we get in more trouble. The New Jersey Devils, a very surprising start. Mackenzie Blackwood has played well. Jack Hughes has played well after not bad, because you can't expect a lot out of rookies, but definitely a Calder Trophy candidate who did not live up to the hype. But Jack Hughes is definitely ready to go in this second season, in his sophomore season. He's playing really well.
Yeah. Nico Hischier needs to step up because he's another first overall draft pick.
True as well.
They got a lot of guys that I mean, their ceiling is really high because they have so many young stars on that team. Once
this all gels, they could be very good. And I'm critical of PK Subban, but he's had a great start to the year, and he's becoming a rock back there when he used to be sort of the liability offensive type.
He's also a guy that is kind of like a Chara. He's not 43, but like if he's doing as much coaching as he is playing, especially to the young guys, then he's more valuable than at first glance. So
he's definitely respected amongst the league, and unfortunately broke up with Lindsey Vonn, which was like our favorite celebrity couple. But maybe that'll help him. I don't want to make any Mike Milbury comments, but maybe that'll help him.
We're definitely both. Our careers are over before they start. I'm condoning cocaine, and you're agreeing with Mike Milbury. So
hey, I don't agree with Mike Milbury. I'm just saying, like,
at 13 is the Minnesota Wild. I haven't not paid attention to the Minnesota Wild at all. So
they're kind of always in this situation where they teeter on the edge of being in the playoffs. So at some point they're going to put it together. Maybe it's this year.
Yeah. Well, they fired Bruce Boudreau, so.
Yep, that's right. Okay, number 14, Carolina. Hard to put them here because they haven't played in a week, and they said exactly that. Hard to get a read on them since we have only seen them in 3 games, and their schedule the rest of the way is going to be very condensed. That's true of everybody, but I guess if you even add a game and a day off that you were supposed to have, that makes a lot of difference, and now they're adding probably 3 or 4.
Yeah, multiple added back-to-backs probably for this team. But Carolina is also one of those teams, not that they've been consistently good for the past 10 years, but they've kind of established themselves as of late to be a team that sometimes they kind of like the Blues. Sometimes they struggle, but ultimately in the end, they're probably going to show up and make the playoffs.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. And they're a fun team to watch as well. They're young, high-flying. Dougie Hamilton is their leader, and he scores a lot of goals, makes a lot of plays. He's a Norris candidate for sure.
then Brindamore is a John Tortorella to be. He's got that attitude towards the game.
Yeah, but he's a player's coach. He's sort of like
it's definitely
he's
a
the
little
new
different.
John Tortorella. He's like the foil to him a little bit.
But I think as he gets older, he's gonna get angry at the world. But
right. Well,
right now
we know
he was always
a demanding captain. So it's sort of like a yin yang.
Yeah.
Which is a term I've never ever used before. Okay. The Pittsburgh Penguins. They are winning games, but there is nothing pretty about them. I hate that argument because that's how you win in the NHL. They have played with the lead for 34 minutes this season, the second lowest total in the league. They have spent more than 160 minutes trailing, the third most in the league. Something has to change there if wins are going to continue. That's
what this writer wrote.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Give credit where credit is due, except not in a good way. I don't agree. I think if you find ways to win, that shows that you're going to be successful, especially when you start slow and you're still winning games.
Yeah, I think if anything, that's not that it's better to play down, but Definitely. It proves to the entire world that regardless of what the score is, we're going to go out and still win games.
Right. If you're putting it together, even when you don't have it,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really agree with that. But
I mean, even last night,
Pittsburgh is we've been established. We're going to find a way to make the playoffs. Until we miss the playoffs, there's nothing wrong with what we're doing.
Definitely, yeah. And last year they kind of missed the playoffs in a way, but not really.
And Crosby is playing. He's back to being Sidney Crosby, and Gensel's showing up. So, I mean, it's that same core that's been there for the past 10 years that is showing up time and time again. So,
and last night they went 1 for 5 on the power play. In the first period they had like 5 or 6 shots on net. And they still forced overtime and got a point against the Bruins, who are extremely hot.
Yeah, and they were down 2-0.
So it's teams that, I mean, when they show that they don't have it, they've not put them together yet, but they're still, I mean, I guess there's 2 ways to think of it. If you're thinking like them playing from behind is a given for the rest of the year, then obviously they're not going to win a lot of games. But I don't think that's the case. I think the case is they've had a slow start and they still managed to get points out of games. So that shows that a team's going to be very good.
Yeah.
All right, Winnipeg Jets. We talked a little bit about them this season. This is what the writer says. This season looks exactly like it should have been expected. Great offense, strong goaltending, very weak defense. So that's sort of like the Patrik Laine effect. Like we said, we don't think he's a leader, but at the same time, that's exactly his MO. So now that he's gone, maybe things change. Regardless, if you're a star, you sort of determine what happens on your team, no matter if you're a leader or not. You can be a bad leader, You can be someone who's not outspoken, but like you're leading by example and it's not good. So Patrik Laine is definitely a force in that locker room, no matter if he's a good leader or not.
Yeah, and that definitely goes both ways. Like if you're a force like in the locker room, but you're toxic, you're gonna attract so much toxic energy. I hate to compare another sport, but Kyrie Irving is such a leader because he's so good, but he's just so toxic to a locker room. So, and I'm not saying Patrik Laine is like that toxic, but I think we spent 20 minutes on this podcast about Patrik Laine. If you don't have the motivation to go out and win games, and you don't want to be there, that's gonna be contagious. Yeah. So. And it's crazy that the writer verbatim said what you said. High-flying offense, amazing goaltending, weak defense. That's like essentially what you said 30 minutes ago. So, and that's, I think, to me, that's the Dustin Byfuglien effect of you lose your captain. I think it was last season. You lose that captain of the defense, and you just, I mean, you have to find it again. You're lost. So
right, and if they went looking for it in Patrik Laine, I'm sure they didn't get it. So maybe Pierre-Luc Dubois can come in and maybe he can come in and be a positive force in that locker room. He's definitely a two-way player. He's a John Tortorella bred hockey player, center for that matter. So he plays 200 feet. He's going to be a great player. He's still young, and he just signed his, coming out of his entry deal. So he's 3 years into the league. And he's already a force. So I think that is going to help Winnipeg way more than Laine is going to help Columbus. We'll see if they.
And that's
they
why
pull it off
Columbus
from here.
isn't in the top 16.
Yeah, and that's why Winnipeg is. So they'll be. I mean, I say every team is fun to watch, but this team is definitely fun to watch because they're exactly the type of hockey that the NHL is looking for nowadays, where they hit hard, they're big, they score a ton of goals, and they give up a ton of goals, which makes them, whatever. 5-4 games are the best games in hockey. So,
Well, when you're a fan of neither team.
yeah, exactly. I said that. I was talking to my friend last night about the Bruins game. 3-on-3 overtime is the best thing ever to happen to hockey, unless your team's in overtime. That's the worst thing ever. Because it's like, Tuukka Rask is the best overtime player of all time in the last 3 games because he's made like 10 breakaway saves. But there's 2 breakaways a night for each team in overtime.
Well, Pittsburgh blowing a 3-0 in overtime.
Oh, that was a great play by Tuukka, but also how are you passing through the crease?
Yeah, that's all Malkin's fault.
Yeah, it's
Malkin's got to either shoot that or pass earlier.
And if Malkin faked the pass, Tuukka would have been literally fully out of the net. He completely committed to the pass. But, he guessed right, and he tipped it into the corner. It was fun to watch. And then the Bruins scored a 2-0 with 10 seconds left.
Also, overtime playoff hockey is the greatest thing ever unless it's your team. So, like, Columbus-Tampa, for everybody but Columbus and Tampa fans was
for us too, because we were watching it like every minute that this goes on is another % chance that the Bruins don't play tonight, which would have been the first time the Bruins played meaningful hockey in like 6 months, and we had to wait another day for it. But it was still cool. It was still cool.
Yeah, and Korpisalo is the greatest ever. So
yeah.
All right,
that does it for our power rankings.
6 hours, but
we got to talk about our game of the week because we have an announcement to make, which we've teased before. On Saturday, what are you doing? Oh, I see.
Showing my screaming eagle.
Okay, on Saturday, the Bruins will play the Capitals at Washington at 7 p.m. Saturday, January 30th. We will be live streaming the game as best as we can. Feel free to tune in live. If you can't, it will be up on YouTube afterwards. We're just going to live stream it through Zoom on YouTube, and it'll go up onto our channel afterwards. So you can, if you try to remember what happens in the game, I don't know. It's going to be better for you to watch it live. So I would if you can, and have it up while you're watching the game so that you can follow along with us. We'll be taking your comments in the chat. It's going to be a lot of fun. And even if no one watches, it's just going to be the same thing that Matt and I do when we watch Bruins Capitals anyway. So you can just get a look into
talk
our
crap
lives.
and eat pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to be live streaming the game. We're going to be live streaming us watching the game. So
that's right.
It's kind of like, it's like a game companion is what it's called. So you want to time, since we're doing it live, you want to stop your game and try to time up our audio with the game. And we're going to try to find a way to put the timer like on the screen.
Yeah.
So you can sync it up. That way you're essentially watching the game with us. You can add in the chat. We'll bring up funny things. So that we're going to try it. If it completely fails, we're going to switch to live streaming intermissions and like breaking down the game as well. So we're going to do something on Saturday.
Either way, it's going to be a lot of fun, at least for the both of us. And if you guys want to join us, you definitely can. I encourage it. We're going to have fun. Like you said, if at the least we'll be updating the time so you can try to sync it up. We'll be reacting at the same time as you. Comment, tweet at us, get in the chat. We'll do it all. So
yeah, we're excited.
Let's have some fun. Yeah, we're going to have fun.
So we're not going to preview the game since we're going to be watching it. So
we'll go live probably 10 minutes beforehand to talk a little bit about it. So.
Saturday, 6:50. All right, is that it?
Let's go. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Thanks for listening. If you listen this long, as always, thanks to our parents for birthing us, family for supporting us. Don't do cocaine. I absolutely do not condone it. I want to end on that note. So.
And Mike Milbury deserved to be fired. All right.
Done.
We'll see y'all Saturday. We saved it. We saved our careers, man.
Our careers are intact. We'll see y'all Saturday.
All right, y'all.